dear, I don't know. That's
Okay. Welcome everybody to the first 2021 South Strabane Planning Commission stated meeting. Let me get down the order real quick here. We have the reorganization for 2021 for the chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. We're going to review the minutes from December. There'll be a public comment period in anything in general. Then there's a planning commission. The consideration of conditional use concerning the proposed vehicle repair garage at the former bowling alley on Route 19. Pre-application meeting with Meadows Landing Associates regarding the proposed Meadows Landing planned residential development located along Landings Drive. That's the behind the Speedway on Route 19. Consideration application for a C2 designation to an R4 medium density residential designation, the zoning change on Burkett Lane, as well as consideration of a master plan for Burkett Manor planned residential development. There's a consideration for preliminary and final land, or just a preliminary subdivision land development for the Southport development phase 1 of the Chapman properties. That's over by Tanger. There's the review of application by Joshua Diel for the preliminary and final development plan for a contractor's field office located on Pierce Avenue. That's over by the former roller skating rink and Pancake. A consideration for preliminary and final subdivision land development approval for the Bradford Run Phase 4 planned residential development in R2, and the review of Section 245 Township Code concerning standards for drive-through facilities. I don't know if we'll get to number 12 when we table that again, but anyhow. First item of business is reorganization for the 2021 calendar year. Do I have any nominations for chairperson, vice chairperson, or secretary?
I'll make a nomination to nominate Fred as chairperson and Joe as vice chairperson and Tom as secretary.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
It's taking my job.
Oh, are you secretary?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I retract that? I said, maybe my motion is to nominate
That's okay.
same individuals for that the same individuals
power
maintain
move.
their
Everybody
offices.
Everybody looked up and said, "Oh."
I didn't realize
I didn't know. Maybe Tom failed.
No, I'm so sorry. See, I should have just
Behind
kept
the
my mouth
scenes,
shut.
I went around and collected votes.
I was going to try to speed things along here. I'll go ahead and volunteer. Actually, my motion is that we keep the same officers that we had last year, let them continue again for this year.
Can she do the time?
I second that.
Okay, so we got a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
It's okay.
Okay, the motion carries. So Fred Pizzuto will be chairperson for 2021. Joe Kopko will be vice chairperson for 2021. And Jay Gordon will be secretary for 2021.
Second fit.
Tom Steele will be assistant secretary.
Assistant to the assistant.
I gotta get new glasses. All right, we're also gonna make a motion here, since this COVID has sort of changed our plan. We're not having regular agenda meetings, and I'm gonna make a motion that the Planning Commission meetings will start at 6:30 on the first Thursday of every month, with the first half hour being an agenda discussion and review, and the actual stated meeting starting at 7 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Okay? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. Motion carries. All right. Is there any public comment in general from the floor that you'd like to address the planning commission? For any
Charlene
item?
Scavati.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Scavati.
Right off the bat, I'd like to just say that my public comment's 4 minutes instead of 3, but there was some important information that I felt might be valuable to the Planning Commission. So first of all, I'd like to make a public record that I object to Meadows Landing moving forward while there's still ongoing litigation along with these issues on their current site. For nothing more than a lack of better words, it seems as though Meadows Landing's putting the cart before the horse. On all the pre-applications brought to the township, Meadows Landing is proposing to build duplexes and single-family homes above the passive recreational area along the southwest side. According to Meadows Landing's geotech report, core borings, this embankment was to have key benching with drains up the slope, and it does not. This embankment's keyway was to have 12-inch rocks with gravel. Instead, Meadows Landing chose to bury boulders the size of Volkswagens in it so that they could get rid of them to clean up their site. This keyway has 1,400 foot of subsurface drainage water being brought up to the surface from 4 tow drains and draining down through the middle of my property. And our stormwater rules do not allow this. A conveyance channel sits on top of this keyway, and below the aforesaid slope, which overtops at the 25-year storm event, runs down through the middle of my property as well. When it is to convey this water for the 100-year storm event safely to a facility, and our stormwater rules does not permit this. The same geo report told Meadows Landing that infiltration was not possible with the double ring infiltrometer reading, along with a photo showing it would not drain for the proposed basin above my home. Meadows Landing put it in anyway and uses calculations that reduces the outflow by infiltration. This basin also has no keyway under the embankment and has had 3 noted slips from the Conservation District and DEP. And Hal Kessler used Sean Donnelly, which is a PE, to dismiss these slips when our stormwater rules require a geotech engineer for stability. Never came to the township for modifications to enlarge the orifice hole from an 8-inch to a 12-inch and lowered it 2 feet. So basically it comes out faster and sooner, this being the point source discharge from the outfall, which runs through our property first, eroding feet, not inches, from our property, which also is the beginning of the problem at Manifold. Our stormwater rules do not permit modifications without notifying the Conservation District as well as the Township Board for approval. Yet the plan recorded at the courthouse has a 46-inch outlet pipe, and it's a 36 post-construction. The recreational facility proposed is sitting on hundreds of thousands of tons of coal that Meadows Landing got a permit from DEP to bury. The new proposed passive recreation area has a stormwater basin, an acre wetland, which overtops because it's built on bedrock, a swath of water running through the middle of it that we had to put a drainage pipe on our property to try to divert it from going into our subsurface floors of our house. A channel that overtops 1,400 foot of drainage saturating this area, making over 15 to 20 trees fall from oversaturated soils. To right beside my house, there's 2 of them, which is overrun with mice. We can catch up to 4 mice a week, which is called rodent harborage. I've brought photos to the board, not to the board, but to Mr. Stanek. And our ordinance does not allow this for our health and safety issues. I would not recommend this area for passive recreation. And as we speak, Meadows Landing is in non-compliance of an order from DEP's inspections since July to remove trees that have fallen in front of this basin outlet and maintain the vegetation. Mr. Stanek is aware of this and chose to ignore enforcement, has ignored phone calls from Howard Dunn from the DEP, and has ignored my right to know since December 2nd on this issue. So any construction done on this site, pre or post, will and has had significant damage to our property. Meadows Landing does not have permission to run water through my property and certainly does not have permission to run more water through it. So I recommend that the board, until stability of this site can be proven through geotech support and the issues I have given you, that the board stop the pre-application phase because our stormwater rules require geotechnical support be done prior to any approval. So we got a new site plan and there's new rules to abide by. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. White.
You're welcome.
I have a question here, since this has been an ongoing issue for probably 10 years. Has our township engineer made a full review of what the problem is out there? Has Scott Grooms or Kevin Craig been out there to look? Because this has gone on back and forth, talk 12-inch pipe, 6-inch pipe, this ditch, that ditch, rock drain, not rock drain. And I have no idea whether what you're saying is just baloney or whether it's the truth. And I don't have anything from the township engineer or anybody verifying that the stormwater that's out there is in compliance, or whether it's been non-compliant. There's been some citations on it. And what I'm going to ask before the board gets too far down the road with this Meadows Landing is that we have a wrap-up report by our township engineer to determine whether they are in compliant now and what they're proposing is not going to increase the stormwater runoff.
Excuse me, I can help you on one of those issues. Engineer Craig went up with the DEP in July when the inspection was for them to cut the trees up and all. He did an inspection and he said that there was an 8-inch orifice hole with a 6-inch under drain, which is totally incorrect. I don't know why he used that, because that's what was given in 2008. And every modification that was done on that site never came back to the board for anything. So that's why, and no inspections were ever done during and before. So anything that's covered over, it's a guessing game because the township wasn't doing their inspections as they were required to do. So everything they're looking at is covered over, or I don't know what it is their answer. They're fine. But I can tell you exactly what was done, because if you want the photos, if you want the geotech reports, I have them and you're welcome to them.
Shouldn't we have that, be given those?
We should have those.
Yeah,
We should have,
and it does seem
have
like it
those
needs
because we
investigated.
can't,
This is ridiculous.
at this point, the board's trying to be fair to the developer and to the surrounding landowners. And at this point, I don't know if we can make an impartial decision because of the situation. It's been this long ongoing, dilemma back and forth with this water issue.
I mean, all you have to do is look at Pine Valley Roads Creek. It starts up here. It's eroded so bad that Russell had to reinforce it. And you have all that water running down Manifold. Why don't you look at the beginning of the problem instead of the bottom?
We'll look, engineer, look into the records, see what we have. Because that was done before you guys were here.
We'll prepare some information.
Yeah, we'll look at the
Yeah.
records, have the engineer look at those records, see what's there. Go up, take a look at the site, assess what the problems are, if there are problems, and what the remedies be under the new and the old.
Will they look at the geotechnical concerns and issues?
They'll look at
too?
everything. We want him to look at everything.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
okay.
That's where the records will come in.
Okay.
Mrs. Cavani?
For.
Yes.
You said you have photos that were taken when this construction was done,
Yes, I do.
and are they dated?
Yes, they are.
My question is, should we not have someone reviewing those?
Oh, absolutely.
That should.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we don't have those in our records, I think we should have those submitted in an evidentiary fashion, and as a part of this request to withhold approval of this application.
Okay, I will seek through my attorney, and I'll have him forward those to you if that's all right.
Do we need to make a motion that we make the information she provides a matter of record of this meeting? So
Well, it'll
that
be
we know,
when,
so it's
I think when the engineer looks at everything,
Yeah, that's.
and that will be a
It's-
record then. That's
Yeah,
all.
we
If he
Okay.
comes back with his report,
with this report.
with all the
usually
information, yeah, then he'll present the report and that as a record.
With
So
all
we
the
just, we
supporting
don't want
documents.
piecemeal this.
Yeah, I mean,
That makes sense.
that's the problem. I mean, we've had piecemeal for a
Right.
long time. And,
And the other reference that Mrs. Scavati made was regarding an ongoing legal matter. And I think that if there is an ongoing legal matter, that certainly has to be considered.
that's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Brad Watucky with Meadows Landing. 4 or 5 years ago, we had the township engineer, our geotech, our engineer, everyone from the Board of Commissioners come out there and walk the site, and they found nothing.
That's because they couldn't see it.
Okay, this dog and pony, it has to stop at some point. We've already did this. We've already walked the site. I don't know how much more Meadows Landing can do.
I'll provide the photos. I don't
You
need
can
to
provide-
talk back and forth.
Yeah,
Feel free
yeah.
to. Feel free to.
Well, my concern is if this walking the site doesn't show concealed conditions,
Correct.
and if a construction was done improperly, irrespective of whether or not it looks good on the surface, then it is necessary that it be corrected by the owner to bring it up to specifications. So it may be necessary and I don't know whose court this lies in. I'm not trying to make a pun about court and legal, but I don't know whose responsibility this is. But this has been going on. There are apparently there apparently is a hydrologic impact to the neighbor's property. Whether or not that is due to improper construction of the embankments and the drains and the embankment drains and the key drains, I don't know how that goes. But if there's an ongoing legal issue, that has to be resolved by the courts if in fact it does affect the ability of the developer to continue with additional work.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Thank
I
you.
may, this is Jeff Kessler, one of the other property owners with Meadows Landing. My dad, Hal Kessler, he was delayed. He'll be on in a minute or so. He's more familiar with the 10 to 15 year history of these complaints from next door. To my understanding, this is whether it's before people home or in front of now or otherwise. This has been up, down, left, and right analyzed. I'm not sure what number attorney Ms. Scavati's on at this point, but it's been dismissed, moved on, and we all know what's going on here. She doesn't want anything developed on the property. We understand that.
That's not true.
But Hal Kessler just joined.
I'm on now, Jeff.
He
I
can
can
give a
bring it
more
up here.
detailed history of the yearly information, the yearly walks on the property, the meetings with Ms. Scavati, and the complete absurdity that this has turned into.
Okay.
I
like
just want the township aware.
Wait, hold on. In lieu of this big agenda that we have, we're not going to get into the 3-hour discussion on this Meadows Landing.
Right, but we're not up for a couple months delay once again on this.
Well, I'm sorry for the delay, but I don't think the board here can really make a decision with some legal arguments still going on. There's still been ongoing complaints, and don't know as the board whether there's been some construction errors that have created this, or whether this is just a fact of life and it was built perfectly fine and the water that's going down there is an allowable discharge. But
And all I'm saying is those have been addressed. Again, Hal Kessler can speak more to the township's engineers who have multiple times been out.
I need something from our engineers saying that it's been addressed and there is no problem, either past or present. And
Which has happened is what I'm saying. So I believe Hal Kessler can more point to that.
I'd like, could I have several minutes to give the commission a brief history of Mrs. Scavati's involvement?
We've been a part of it. Most of us have been here all 10 years.
I find it to be highly unfair that the commission or any other township body can delay any of our procedures here on any unsupported, simply verbal data.
I'll send you photos, Hal.
Mrs. Scavati, I have the floor. Thank you. We have had nothing but incessant interference from Mrs. Scavati, to the extent that the entire commission from South Strabane has come to the site, inspected the site. As Jeff said, they found nothing. They have totally interfered with this project, to the extent that Mrs. Scavati has incessantly called DEP and WCCD for unfounded, ongoing violations. And Mrs. Scavati, I have the floor. You've had it for almost 17 years now, and you have cost us a substantial amount of money.
You cost your own self money, $250,000.
We're not going to get this back and forth.
We're not. I just want to lay this out, and what we will get you is the fact that the unfounded complaints that Mrs. Scavati is probably on her third, fourth, maybe fifth pro bono attorney at this.
This one's not pro bono, Hal.
Mrs. Scavati, I have the floor. Thank you. I would like to just finish my comments. We will go out. We will get you the engineering reports. We can get you any documentation you need. But Mrs. Scavati's end game, and it has been since 2007, was to force us to buy her property. That is all this has been about. She has failed on every front. We don't use pro bono counsel, unfortunately. It's cost us a fortune to defend all of her incessant, unfounded complaints. And here she is at it again.
I'll just bring it up.
Mrs. Scavati, I have the floor. Thank you. When we get this process going, we need to get this pushed through. And I don't mean to use the word push on the township side, but we need to get this done. A delay is going to cost us money and time that we cannot afford, and we don't have that thick of a margin in this project to begin with. It's up to you.
Let's say thank you and let's move on to the next agenda item.
We're gonna, this is a pre-application meeting for this.
We're not even on that agenda item yet. We're just on public comment.
Oh, I was thinking we were on it, but
No.
that was the first item.
We haven't even done approval of our meeting. That was just public comment.
Okay.
So anybody else have any
You
other
guys will
public
get one
comment?
more bite at the apple here in about 10 minutes, okay?
Can you explain what you mean by that? One more bite of the apple? You mean one more
We're gonna
time?
bring up Meadows Landing, an official on the agenda item here. We were in general public comments.
Okay. You mean this evening?
Yeah, this evening, exactly.
Okay.
The township minutes from the December meeting, I did have a comment for you back before that, I think. Yeah, on the section under pre-application meeting with Candy Hill Development regarding proposed planning residential development along Quarry Road. The paragraph, the one up from the bottom, it just starts off, several residents expressed their concern. Do we have the names of those residents?
We don't have a sign sheet, and it got kind of chippy at that point in the meeting where it was a lot of comments. No one was really saying who they were, so to be generic and not to put a comment to someone's name that maybe didn't say it, I said residents.
Okay, that's fine. I don't have any other comments on those minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the December 7th, 2020 minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, move the second, minutes are approved. All right, consideration for conditional use, application concerning a proposed vehicle repair garage for the property located at 390 Washington Road, former Washington, bowling lanes.
before we start, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Before we get into another repair facility, I wanted to address again the repair facility right up the street here, and what's the status of those junk cars sitting up front.
Sure, I'll defer to Brandon for that one.
Sure. We're down to what, 3 cars on long 19 right now?
Been there for what, 6 months?
And they haven't. There were some site improvements that they made, such as paving there, which was understandable to get those off the area. In speaking with them, in speaking with our police, we have not taken the opportunity to be forceful with them, as some of that business that they generate is due to us. And due to the proximity they are to our main points of accident. So we have not, but we are in constant contact with them. Code enforcement and the police are working together routinely to get that addressed.
I understood that you were going to the magistrate at one point.
We backed off when we realized that we were contributing to the issue.
How are we contributing?
Yeah, well, they are one of our records, one of our salvers that we use.
Okay, but I mean, that
They are-
still
they are-
doesn't matter with how they're conducting their business.
And at that time, I was here when that got approved,
Yeah,
and I specifically asked about junk cars.
Mhm.
No, there weren't going to be any junk cars stored on that road. That's why I brought it up originally.
Correct. And they have not been able to process those vehicles this year due to COVID. And that has also been another thing.
yeah,
But they can't drag them back up on the top and
should
get them
lease-
off the 19.
Yep, understood. And
I mean, that's an eyesore. You drive past the township, and you got, so right now, with that, this thing, to me, is dead. This new car place. I don't want to have the same thing, even a much larger facility with junk cars looking down
Mhm.
from 19. So as far as I'm concerned,
unless they're gonna conduct everything inside, I mean, the bowling alley.
well, this other company made a promise too. And there they go, junk cars.
Well,
This guy said he's gonna cover it up and be inside, that's fine. But what happens if he doesn't? What do we do as a township? Well, he may be hauling junk cars in there too. What do we do then? If we can't control this small place up here, how are we gonna control
Well,
large?
I think the one up here, they ought to look and see if those cars are actually in the right of way, depend on right of way for Route 19, because they are almost right on the shoulder of the road. So, you can't do that. So they need to haul them up. Somebody, whether we use them as a salvage company, somebody needs to go up there and tell them to move those junk vehicles up by that building. Or gonna cite them with the
So
magistrate.
my suggestion before, there's other people out there doing it. I know they make it quicker, but cut them off. We cut their business off from South Bay Township. They may do something. I mean, that's a pretty simple process to do. You don't listen to what we're telling you, you're not doing what we're asking you to do. You're done with us. We're not doing business with you.
Understood. And all this got to be court.
But nothing's happened. They're still junk cars. No offense, but they're still sitting up there.
When you talked with them, did they try to provide any, like, plan to address these issues or give any kind of?
I have to follow up with police people.
Well, you have to see if those cars are titled, because a lot of times the problem when they're in a wreck, they can't get the title to actually junk them. So they're in a limbo land, but they need to not.
Well,
leave
it may be a
them
problem
there.
with the state too, with COVID. It may be a problem with the state. to get this stuff done. But still, they don't belong
Yeah, right,
on the highway, regardless of what the problem.
yeah.
They hauled them down there, they can haul them back up.
Yeah, I do remember when they came in to do that, there was discussion about the cars making sure there's enough space up around that facility for those cars to be
Yeah.
stored.
No, I was there. I mean, they assured us they weren't gonna park along Route 19. Everything was gonna happen up there. Okay, so that sideline there, we're in for this conditional use application for the vehicle repair. I believe, Harshman Associates is the engineer for these folks. Do you wanna,
Scott first and
yeah,
then let Jamie go?
Scott, you did a review of this, proposal?
We did a review of the proposal. It's a C2 General Commercial District. A conditional use is appropriate, pending compliance with the requirements under 245, 164A through H, 8 different items. Harshman responded to each of the 8 conditions, and they are all being met. So it does meet the conditional use requirements.
Real quick, you guys don't mind, I just want to bring everyone up to speed on the memo here for the application. So on November 13th, the Township received a conditional use application for a proposed vehicle repair garage for property located at 390 Washington Road, which served as the former Route 19 bowling alley. The property owner is looking to expand the off-site vehicle repair services offered by Washington Honda, located at 307 Washington Road. Please note the applicant is not proposing expansion of the building's existing footprint. With the vehicle repair garage being classified as a conditional use within the C2 General Commercial Zoning District, the applicant must abide by specific conditions outlined in section 245-164 of the Township Code. You will find the aforementioned responses within the attached materials. As Township Engineer Groom performs the completeness of the compliance review, he ultimately recommends the board consider approval of recommendation of approval. And Mr. Jamie Harshman of Harshman C Group is on the call, and I would invite him to speak further on that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Patrick, very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you mind if I share my screen and I will just talk briefly about the site and the project in broad terms and answer any questions you have? All right, let's see if this works. We submitted with the application a copy of a survey that was done for the property not too long ago, a Alta survey, so it's very detailed. The project, again, very straightforward. What we're asking is a use approval for this building to be operated as what will be a collision service center. Your engineer did a good job addressing our application with respect to the conditional use points. I can also go through those here with you. In particular, let me find my share screen button again.
Jamie, I have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
What's the size of that parcel that this fits on?
The footprint of the building?
No, the entire parcel.
The entire parcel is, let me scroll up here. I think it's 2.5 acres.
I couldn't find it on your site.
Yeah, 2.45 acres is the size of the lot. The building itself, a little over 23,000 square feet. The paved parking area, there's a little over 100 striped spaces existing. So it's a pretty nice facility as is. The owner, who will also be using the facility, is proposing to use the footprint of the building as it is. They're going to be doing internal renovations to that to accommodate, what they'll need to make the operation happen. But the building itself is a nice size. The paved lot that's there is a nice size. The utilities are all existing. This used to would have been a lot more traffic to this location back when it was an operating bowling alley than you'll ever see as a collision repair center. I'll talk through just briefly, just to get on the record, what we submitted. You've got points A through H in the ordinance to show that we're in compliance with those requirements right out of the gate. Item A, we can't be located within 100 feet of any agriculture residential district. We're not. We're well within the C2 all around. Buffer area A would be required. If we were in the vicinity of those districts, we are not. We're well within the C2 district for this use. Probably a good item to highlight here is item C, which talks about the storage of parts, dismantled vehicles, and etc. We stated in the application that no storage of parts, dismantled vehicles, and vehicles or equipment awaiting repair outside of the building are anticipated at this time. In the event this should change to accommodate site operations, all such items will be kept in an enclosed building or in an outdoor area that is screened by a 6-foot-high hedge or opaque fence. Furthermore, appropriate plans would be submitted to the township for proper permitting at that time. I caught some of the previous discussion about the facility down the street. I just want to acknowledge here on the record. And also I'll mention that joining this call with us, we have 2 other representatives of the owner. There's Mr. Gary Flannery on the call and also Ed Morasic. So we've got the engineer and the owner's reps on call, and we are committed to complying with this ordinance explicitly and not being a nuisance, as you mentioned the other site may have become. I skipped item D. There will be no vehicles offered for sale at this property. Item E, all repair work will be performed within the enclosed building. Adequate ventilation and fire protection will be confirmed through the building permit process with the township at the time of interior building renovations. To that point, we acknowledge that there will be a building permit required for the renovations work inside. I don't have any detail to share with you on that at this time, but that would be the building permit process. Item F, and maybe this is a point to your neighboring property. We've committed that no vehicles will be stored on any public streets. Good thing about this site, it's a nice size site. It sits way back from the road and adjoining properties. So that would not be a concern.
I have another question, Jamie. Why?
Oh, go ahead.
You know, and why I asked you what the lot size is, because for a car dealership now it has to be 10 acres. And, you know, this is only 2.5 acres. So we just need some little more assurance, because item D, it says that requirements of 245-163 are met other than minimum lot area. So, you know, it's always convenient if you're doing vehicle repair and body shop to put 3 or 4 cars out in the lot there for sale under reconstruction title or whatever you want to have, but you really aren't going to be able to do that. I mean, we had another person up Route 19 that was going to have a car sales lot, but the zoning changed and they require 10 acres now for a dealership. He didn't have it. So you need to make sure, if this is going to be a subsidiary of Washington Honda or whatever, and they want to sell them, they're going to have to take them across the street to the Honda dealership.
And I don't think that's a problem at all, Mr. Studo. I'll let Mr. Flannery weigh in right now just to confirm that point.
Quite simple with that. This facility will not be approved by Honda or Hyundai or any of the other original equipment manufacturers for any sale. And we do not intend to sell used cars out of there. The shop that we will run out of there will be done as a first-class operation, as I believe we have done with Honda and Hyundai for 20 years now. We take pride in our businesses, and we try to do it the right way.
No, that's fine. I just, you know, stuff sort of migrates away after these meetings. And I agree, the operations up there are first class, the Honda and Hyundai, and I wouldn't expect anything less for this. But I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that if somebody decides to get the right idea to sell some of the cars there, that doesn't meet the plan. So,
Sir, with all
just let you guys know that.
If we were going to seek to do a sales operation, we wouldn't do it on a piece of property that sat down on a hole like this one does.
Yeah.
You know, it does not suit well for any sort of display.
Right.
Well, with that, I think we went through the points of the ordinance. Any other questions at this time? I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, did you say what the size of the building was?
The building, approximate square foot is a little over 23,000 square feet.
Okay, because the parcel viewer says it's 32,400. Does that make any difference to you? That's the county site.
You know what? I scaled that off of the Alta survey that we have. I would trust that probably a little more than the parcel viewer.
Okay.
Big difference. You change the price. No, picked up 8,000 square feet. That's pretty good.
I just was wondering whether or not the county had the right information on there.
And I'll tell you what, that'll be confirmed when the building permit comes through. I don't have any architectural plans to share with you, but if that is an adjustment, you'll see it on the tax rolls right after the building permit goes through.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so what we have is whatever they submitted, I'd like somebody on the commission to make a motion to have whatever was submitted admitted into the record. And then let's do after that's done, I'll need a motion to close the record. And then after that, you guys can deliberate and make your decision.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to submit the package for the record that's before us. It seems to be complete. And also for the record, I don't want to persecute these fellas and hold up their conditional use application because of some other fellow up the road. I mean, that's a separate problem. We have a problem up there, and I know what you're saying, Gordy, but I don't think it's fair to hold these folks up just because of some turkey up the road isn't keeping his shop in order. So I will make a motion to submit this for consideration and for the record.
Okay, now let's also, Fred, let's state what is in the packet. So do we also have a notice of this hearing?
Yes.
Okay, that should be noted and put in. Okay. The notice and the advertisement. Okay, the notice went out to neighbors, the advertisement and the packet and whatever else. I'd like you to just state what they are.
Yeah, the point before is a description of what their proposal is, where it's located, Route 19. There's a former bowling alley. There's a description by their engineer, Harshman. Basically line iteming all the conditional use topics in the CP zoning district and how this applies or doesn't apply to those. And there is a site plan by Harshman Associates showing the facility, the existing facility, and that the building will be rehabbed, and there's not going to be any footprint change in footprint to the building itself.
Now, is the advertisement in that packet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And the notification letter.
And the notification letter.
Okay.
So.
And the list of addresses that it was now.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
a list of addresses for the adjoining property. And a letter by James Harshman, PD. So that is the package. I'm submitting it for record.
And the engineers reviews it too.
The engineer, yeah.
Okay.
Harshman
Oh, I'm
reviews and all.
sorry.
Township engineer.
Oh, and I saw KLH.
Yeah, well, that's our township
Township,
engineer's review. So that's all in the package.
Okay, good. And then you made a motion to admit that into the record for the public hearing for the
Right.
conditional use application.
Right.
And I think we have a second and an approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, with that being said, then,
Well, take a vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion.
Okay, now,
carried.
okay, yeah, sorry.
Motion carried unanimously. I'm going to close this.
Just to ask for anybody, is there anybody on there?
Yeah, is there any other comments by anybody on the screen, on the Zoom meeting that has any objection or comment towards this application?
I do have a question.
Well, first, let's close the
Okay.
record and then you
Yeah.
guys can talk.
Okay, so not hearing any other objections from the public in general, then this this particular part of the record is now closed.
Oh, no, we need a motion to do it. Motion,
I have a
sorry.
motion to close the record.
I make a motion to close the record.
I second that motion. Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carried unanimously.
Okay, now you can have a discussion of conditions or anything like that you want to recommend.
I don't think we need to recommend any conditions.
I like to have a question.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm not saying these guys are gonna do what this guy is truthful. But if it does occur, can we require now escrow account or a bond or something that we can go down there, take those vehicles, if they are junk, laying around out of that property at their expense?
Now, that's an interesting question. I don't know if an escrow is if that would be a reasonable condition. That hasn't come up before yet. But if you think that that's something you want to recommend to the Board of Supervisors, we'll have that answer done by the time they get to that meeting.
Well, just a
I
question.
don't know. I don't know.
I just don't want to have the same thing happen up here.
Right, so you're saying just whatever it would take to tow some cars out of there or something.
Yeah.
At their expense.
I think
Not
it's
having to go.
Jay, I think that's a good idea that we can, have a recommendation that be investigated and, and covered before it goes to the supervisors. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, like I said before, you be careful what you wish for, because I got involved in something like this in another township. You can't just lollygag up there and yank them out and take them.
No, we're just talking about having it looked at from a legal perspective by the solicitor's office.
Yeah, because
before it goes to the supervisors.
But sometimes they've hauled them from an accident or whatever, and they have no title, and then the township is stuck with this vehicle then because they can't get rid of it, they can't salvage it and scrap it, and so they're stuck with this vehicle, and trying to get the clear title from Harrisburg may take 6 months.
Again, it shouldn't be there.
So
They can move it someplace else, out of sight, out of mind.
yeah, I mean,
If they don't,
them moving it is the way that it has to happen.
it has to be some enforcement.
Yeah.
Or an escrow would be there. Or a bond or something.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
To that point, just for my client's sake, what would the magnitude of the escrow be? I know it might cost $200-300 to tow a car.
It wouldn't be excessive.
Sounds like
any interest in that position. I'm thinking
there's
maybe.
I guess there's 2 points I might make. I defer to Chris on this because I'm sure he knows, and probably Mr. Marassa can speak to this also from the legal point, but I don't think you can assume non-compliance to require an escrow. To me, it just doesn't sound right. But if it is a minimal escrow in the amount of, say, $500 or something like that, it may not be an issue at all or worth spending the time on because it's a minor bump in the road, so to speak. But
Jimmy, I have the same concern that you did. I don't know if you can assume that there's going to be non-compliance. I don't know if an escrow is a condition, so to speak.
now, let me weigh in a little bit more also. My company, our Harshman CE Group, we do code enforcement also. We provide that to several municipalities in the area. So, I know that process very well, and it works. I understand you got some muddy waters with the neighbor, and that's fine. But when you don't have muddy waters, it's very straightforward, and we do it all the time for our clients. So, in the event that this facility would go naughty on you, code enforcement works. We do it all the time. I don't think you'll have a problem here at all. I think it's fine. My opinion, I don't think you can put our client in a position where you're assuming non-compliance when we've stated compliance with the application and the ordinance stands for itself. But from an engineering perspective, I don't mind letting Chris look into that for the township's perspective. Mr. Marasic or Gary, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Jamie, if you don't mind, this is Ed Marasic. as Jamie indicated, I understand your concern because of your experience with the location down the road. But frankly, you have a way to get them into compliance. You've got tremendous power. And if they're not complying with your ordinances, you certainly have a remedy. It is our intention, as we indicated in our application, to conform with all of the requirements. And I would hope, frankly, that our long history in South Strabane Township, I live minutes from the township building. I've lived here for more than 20 years. We've operated businesses in South Strabane Township successfully for decades. We consider ourselves good corporate citizens. And I assure you that that's exactly what we intend to do going forward. And I really do believe that the idea that you've had problems with the shop down the road should not be an indication or an expectation of any issues that you'll have with us. You could apply that same logic to any business. And just because you've had an issue with one doesn't mean you're going to have an issue with another. It's important to me that we assure you that it's our intention to renovate a building that's been dormant for a long time, bring more than 20 jobs to South Strabane Township and significant paying jobs. And we certainly intend to comply with township ordinances.
And I'm not saying anything wrong with your comment. I understand. It's been a good citizen. But I'm looking down the road 5 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, that things change. And I don't want to see the same thing happen that was promised up here with vehicles that shouldn't be there.
Oh, absolutely respect your position. I understand completely as a resident of South Strabane Township. I'm very aware, and I agree with you regarding the importance of complying with township regulations. But as Jamie indicated, and as I alluded to, believe me, you have a hammer. You have tremendous power. If they're not complying, I'm not sure why you're tolerating it. And if they aren't complying, you have a way to make them comply. So, I'm just suggesting that you have power much greater than a bond a bond in regard to removal of vehicles. Your power is much greater than that.
Thank you, Mr. Marassi. Like I said, because we have a bad actor up the road, I didn't want that to influence our decision on this in any way. It's not fair to you folks, since you have been a very good business in the township for many years, and I know Gene Trapezzino personally, and he wouldn't have anything like that. So, and I don't know the background of the problem up the road. I just know it exists. There's plenty of ordinances for junk cars and whatever. They can be fined $500 a day right out of the get-go. So that's something that Brandon will have to work at his end.
Well, and understand the reason I didn't say anything before, if it puts the township at a level of comfort with some reasonable, bond or security, frankly, I don't have a terrible problem with the concept. We intend to continue our good relationship with the township. And if as evidence of that, we come to some understanding of putting something up, even if that's beyond what's required under an ordinance, we would frankly consider that. As I said, we recognize your concerns, and we intend to continue to be very supportive of the township. And that's why I didn't object.
We saw it. We're good, right?
Well, if they're going to voluntarily do it as a matter of good faith, or to say that it's to give you assurance, put $500 to an escrow or 1,000, whatever. they're saying,
1,000, I'd say at least.
Then if they're gonna voluntarily do it, we don't have to spend money to research.
Yeah,
At least some
frankly,
money, monetary fund there to do this.
yeah, as I said, frankly, we don't have any problem with the concept. I have no problem with that, even if it's not required by the ordinance. Once again, we're looking forward to continuing good relationship.
Can I ask a question in regards to that, though? As far as doing that, now this is in this situation with this conditional use. If we had someone else coming forward with a similar request for a use of property under conditional use for this garage, we were setting a precedence that we should require that same from them.
Well, they're voluntarily. We're not setting a precedent.
No, we're not setting a
precedent.
No, so
That's what I, yeah,
no,
'cause
so that's actually,
I,
if there's a conditional use and if the applicant meets all the conditions of the use, we're obligated to grant it. However, you are also able to put reasonable conditions on that granting of the conditional use. Now, usually the conditions are regarding the use of the property, something to protect the health, safety, welfare, or something, whatever. In this case, we're not really talking about that. We're talking about, we want to be able to remedy a violation if it happens without having to go through an enforcement process. Just say, hey, we got some money here, let's tow these things out, and we don't have to worry about it. That's a little bit different than what I would consider be a condition. The fact that we're having this discussion and figuring it out, these are all case-by-case basis. These are all, that's what you have the hearing for, that's what you have the record for. So when somebody else comes in for another similar application, sure, they're going to say, oh yeah, well, these guys did this, you want to do that here. It may not be, maybe it's on 19, maybe it's somewhere else that you're not too worried about. I was going to make sure where it would be.
yeah, that's okay, no go there.
But there may not be a reason to ask for it for somebody else. So you're not going to be stuck in any of them. But if they're going to voluntarily do it, I would just say recommend approve. I would suggest that you would recommend approval with a recommendation that the board ask the applicant if they would be willing to do this for the approval process. And when they move to the board. And it sounds like they would be willing to discuss it at the board meeting as well.
I have a comment on it as well. I appreciate where everybody's concerns are coming from. I don't think it's worth the effort of managing an escrow account for $1,000 over towing a vehicle that we wouldn't really probably have the interest or right or want to tow and have to be responsible for and deal with anyway. When we can, we just need to enforce when we have something to enforce from the process that we have. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend approval subject to all the information in the packet.
Yes, I will second Mr. Steele's motion. And at this time, I don't think we're going to muddy the waters with an escrow account. We have the ability to take a straight enforcement action if we chose to do that. So I'm going to accept the conditional use application as it was presented and as it was recommended by Mr. Steele. Do I have can I?
Further discussion?
Further discussion? If not hearing any, then can I have your vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Gordon's opposed. Okay, the motion carries.
We want just.
Yeah, I do appreciate everybody's comments. From a staff perspective, during this time, we were willing to work with them. But it's time that we put this back in front of them to be sure that those 3 remaining cars are removed from 19. I respect all of the comments and I appreciate hearing it, but we will reconnect with them to make sure that they can get these 3 cars taken care of in a very timely manner. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. That's what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're back on to the Meadows Landing again. Pre-application meeting with Meadows Landing Associates LP regarding the proposed Meadows Landing 10 residential development located along Landing Drive. And Can we hear the engineer's report on that?
I think there is one.
There's not an engineer's report on this. We're still at a pre-application meeting.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Maybe you could ask Meadows Landing just to talk about what's new.
Yeah, what's changed here essentially from when you were in here before, whether you changed around how many single family, multi-family. And the other question that I have, and then we can entertain some other board questions, is we show future street access, off the main parcel to Fisher Road, and then there's another one that's off of this cul-de-sac. Do you have any right-of-ways or any kind of agreements with these adjoining property owners for that to be considered a real legitimate future access? Or I noticed that the latest plan here, it has an expanded view right past the conservation area and the clubhouse. It shows access out on the Fisher Road with maybe 20 additional lots.
One of those lots, Fred, is covering the TV tower that's still on Major's property.
Yeah, I mean, it was just slap
Can't
on.
go there, yeah.
But also, we don't have this shown off of this other small cul-de-sac on the sort of the southwestern part of the development. So just as a general question, do you folks have any kind of agreements or anything in the works for that to be considered a real legitimate future access?
Good evening, everybody. My name's Alan Beachy. I'm with Scheffler and Company. I'm the engineer for the applicant. And no, the answer is no. We don't have any agreements with the adjoining property owner. The intent of what you see in front of you, the Board of Supervisors meeting, they raised concerns about the ability of our plan to provide continuous access to other places. So what you see is just an exercise in, is it feasible from an engineering perspective? And so what we did was we took a look at the surrounding properties, and there's physical challenges as far as going north. There's a stream, and the parcels really aren't, some of them are finished, some of them are not. They're really not conducive to that. The parcel to the rear, the Fisher property, would seem to be the best one just from a topographic standpoint. And I just threw those lots on there as an artist rendition, if you will. The important, what? I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something. The road itself was the most important part. I had originally drawn just those two gaps in our lots to show that we could provide access to a couple of the adjoining, the best candidates, if you will. And then in discussions with staff, they wanted me to provide a little more evidence that that was actually feasible from a construction road slope. It's the only thing I looked at was road slope perspective. So the one that I drew up a little more detail on, the one out the Fisher Road, it's about a 1,400 foot long stretch, and the elevations of the endpoints, if you will, are very conducive to a road. If you ran a straight slope between the two, it would be somewhere around 3%. If you followed the topo a little closer, you could get between 4 and 8% down and then back up to Fisher Road. So it's very feasible to do what I drew. Now, naturally, if the Fisher property ever gets rezoned and developed, they would come in with their own road system. I just wanted to show that there's definitely a possibility that that road can be built.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Wasn't Fisher Road,
there was another development came in, we
Exactly, yes. And
coming
they-
down on Manifold because that intersection down in South Mass.
Right,
I mean, they're not
exactly,
gonna do
Jay.
it here, but I mean,
Well, that,
future consideration.
the other one that came in had 400 lots. This one is projecting 334 units.
But they were already, but they were gonna be going down. Fisher.
That's what
This
they
one's
were.
just-
Right, they're going, this one's going on to 19, and yeah, if they go on a Fisher, like, that is a big concern that I have for them hitting Fisher
Oh, yeah,
Road
well,
and
okay,
going down to
that's
the
what I-
Manifold.
that's what I-
Right, right. And I don't, are you able to actually, I understand why he's putting it on there, but I'll tell you, I don't think that's really is correct to reflect that like that without having an actual right of way to do that, to go to that extent.
Yeah, you can show it, I mean,
Goals to show it.
You can show it, I mean.
You can show it, it doesn't mean it. I don't, to me, that's not realistic at all, because you don't even know if you have the right to use it. And they can't, if the
Well,
tower's
they
there,
have
you
to
can't
show-
put it there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's
that
not
tower,
accurate.
they didn't even look, I mean, they can move that over and miss the tower, but, you know, in order, when they lay the subdivision, all the parcels out, they have to leave a gap to go, so they can at least exit this plan. Whether
And that
they-
was our only intent, is to leave
Whether
a
they
gap.
have, whether they ever get that out on the Fisher Road that's academic, but they have to show some way to break all these lots in order to have an access to get out. Whether it's, you know, whether it goes off a cliff or whatever, at least they, you know, they'll have that gap in the subdivision to show access for future.
I
It may
can
never-
understand
it may
this
never
gap.
happen, but
Oh,
they-
this I can understand, Fred.
Yeah.
It's this, the way they're reflecting it on here to this extent. That's my question, I guess, because you don't even have right to this access to begin with. I can understand the roadway, but then they're adding all these other units onto it as
No,
well.
that's not their units.
That's not, they're just,
They just put it up there.
feasible, the road can be built at a proper grade.
Oh, these aren't units on
No,
here?
no, that has
Oh,
nothing.
oh,
See the line right here, that's your property.
That's a property.
This is just if somebody would come in or if they.
Yeah, if somebody.
Just a demonstration.
oh.
It's a demonstration. That's a good word. I just wanted to show that the road grades were feasible and that someone could say, well, yeah, you could build a road, but it's not economically feasible because you can't get any lots on it. That's all I did. Again, it's an artist representation, but the physics of the road are true.
They can show.
And I don't know if you heard, but the problem we had before, the Fisher Road goes down in Manifold. That being a state road, they've been trying to fix that talking about fixing for how many years now, Fred?
Yeah. At least,
You know, and that intersection down there, there's no sight to that intersection at all. So that would be addressed at that time anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a big concern. That's a big concern.
Yeah, hold on, I'll pull it up. Alan, do you have the ability to screen share your end? I can keep doing what we're doing here, but it might be more effective if you screen share your end and sort of walk us through it. No. Thanks, Jay. For the people viewing, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the town master plan here.
Yeah, and as you can see, the last version here, I just showed the future access that we'd be willing to leave as open space or right of way, however administratively the township wants to handle that. And then, like I said, that the staff asked me, you know, is that really a good place for that? And that's all I'm trying to show is, yes, that place will work. If it happens.
Yeah, I have a question, but I don't know if, because our engineer hasn't reviewed anything since the pre-application. They identify open space. It says 50% of the parcel will remain as open space. I know recently we had these discussions about open space, green space, calculating it and so forth. Do we know if their 50% percentage calculation is accurate with the new guidelines that we set up for open space? And then when the
Yeah, and
engineer
then
shows
you go like through regs,
like these are all.
figure it out and say, yeah, this is 30%.
That's, I just,
This
yeah.
this is all.
Never even have the ability to.
Did we, I'm gonna bring up the same thing I brought up last time, I think, about side yard or side setbacks. Was that an issue at all? Am I misremembering that? We're all good on the lot size and the size of the units they were talking about putting on the.
Yeah, the sketch is based on your bulk standards.
Okay.
And obviously we'll get into a great more detail as we go through the process.
Sure, okay. Did the Board of Supervisors ask about an impact study on the school district? Is that why that's on there?
That was brought up at the board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if it was you guys or the board, but yeah, they wanted us to talk to the school.
Okay.
So as it looks right now, because we've gone through some of these, as the development and market conditions change, these sort of get massaged a little bit from the master plan. Like right now, you're proposing 101 single family, 146 duplexes, and then 87 townhouses. So
right.
Now I assume, like, you really didn't give us the different phases which you're going to plan first. Or are you going to build some single family, some multifamily at the same time, or how do you sort of plan to phase this?
I think the end user said they wanted to, when they built a phase, they wanted to have all the flavors available to the buyers, probably to test the market while they build it. So
That makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is Ryan Klausnitzer with NVR. Yeah, that's correct. We would try to have all three programs selling at the same time, duplex, single family, and townhomes, and try to have each phase with a similar lot count of each so that we have a nice bit of lots in front of us during each phase.
Okay.
I can pull up the transition to those homes.
We're gonna proceed right in that.
Yeah, I have.
There's 4 different,
Yeah, there's a bunch of different
4 or 5 actually.
What's the price range that you're projecting on these?
The townhomes, they'll be in the, call it low to mid twos. They'll start there probably around 240, 250, and then they'll go up from there, go into the duplexes and then the single families. Single families will be in the high threes, the fours likely once they're optioned out.
Okay. Well, I think it's a nice plan. I mean, this property has been sort of stop and go for quite a while. I mean, back to when the Speedway was proposed, and then the plan was going to have houses right out on the Route 19, and then that hospital came in and built that development there, and this is all behind it. So I think, as you probably got a sense of early in the meeting, that there's been this ongoing stormwater issue, and I think we need to sort of try to close the book on that and get this reconciled one way or another to satisfy all the players, the township, the board of supervisors, the planning commission, Strabane. I mean, I don't know. Probably when you have something like this, the best way to end it is everybody's pissed off, and then we probably got it to a good medium. And I'd like to, because I've been on the board for 20 years, and this has gone on. I don't know where we are with this stormwater stuff. Every time there's a proposal, it all, goes that direction. I'd just like a sort of a concise chronology and what we have, and whether it's in compliance and whether there's outstanding violations that they found, and I think that's all we're asking for on this. We just want to get to an end. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd be happy to move forward if just, a condition at this point or a condition to the permit or anything that we'll move forward and investigate it, and we can meet, and it'll be taken care of during construction if there is an issue. We just want to proceed to move forward. So
we have no problem. This is Hal Kessler. The township engineer feels that there is an issue there. Now, again, this thing has been litigated at every turn. It ends up in our favor. As I said, we've had the entire commission visit the site. Every takeaway has been that it's a non-issue, but let's assume, to keep the ball rolling here, that it may be an issue, which we know the answer to that. But the township engineer determines that, in their professional opinion, it is an issue, then we'll have to take care of it. I mean, if you look at the way we've designed the site as well, I believe Mrs. Scavati lives in the area that we have thrown a buffer. We've thrown a green space in that area.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the fact of the matter is that we can correct an issue involving stormwater if there is one. And there are reports, there have been investigations, but to study this non-issue and hold up the project isn't going to do anybody any good. We would be
do us good.
We would be more than willing to make it a condition to any approval that this issue be taken care of. To the township engineers, best approval. Certainly, not the residents.
I mean, I think that's all we're asking for, that, this is put to bed once and for all, and it works properly. I think that's all anybody's asking for. I'm asking for any.
Excuse me, Mr. Pizzuto, may I speak? Excuse me, may I speak?
Ms. Carvati, wait a minute. We're not going to go down. You had plenty of time to talk, and we're not going to go back.
Well, I'm not. They all
We
have the time to
understand. We
speak.
understand. We're trying to reconcile this.
Okay, because if we just follow our stormwater management ordinances that are written for this new site development, it should all work out the way it should work out.
Well, that's all we're asking for. And we're not.
That's
gonna
all I've
be
ever
able
asked
to
for.
folks to do any more or any less. So.
That's all I ever asked for.
Well, once we get all the facts, everybody,
yeah, I mean,
gives us the facts, we start. She gives us facts. Hal gives us whatever legal things he's already been through, plus we have this already. Okay, then we have that background, what's already been litigated. And we have the pictures, we have the engineering reports, that should be.
It should be sufficient.
Sufficient for us to figure
I'd like.
out. We're not in an approval part.
No, this is all pre-application.
Oh, yeah,
There's
right.
nothing
But
to it.
interestingly, they've just voluntarily given us a condition that they would comply with, that is, will comply with the stormwater issue. I mean, what more could we ask for?
Right, and once we get all the facts and everything.
They're obligated to do all of that anyway.
Right.
So we're good.
Right,
I think
I have Mr.
I think they've
Rushton's
presented
engineer
their,
report.
what needs to be presented at this point. I think we can move on.
I agree.
We don't
I'd
need a
like-
motion. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure that what I'd like to ask for, all this is supposed to be done to check and make sure everything's done right now. I think and maybe we're going to automatically get this, but I'd like to state that the township engineer provides handwritten documentation for us to have on record that this site was examined thoroughly, not just by appearances, but thoroughly investigated to the extent to be able to adequately confirm that everything was done correctly, whether they have to dig test holes, whatever is needed, to be able to verify the correctness of what was done or the incorrectness of what was done. So we know going forward, the correct status of that site and what's needed to be done to make it right.
Everybody
But
presents
in
their
writing.
evidence.
Yeah, and with
Everybody
the
puts their
supporting
evidence in.
document.
Yeah, right.
But we need it in writing.
Well, yeah, it'd be
That's
right,
what I
for sure.
mean.
You know, the engineer's report's gonna be
Yeah,
reported.
all the previous reports and engineer memos that have been written over the last 12 years would be provided.
Yeah, it's all provided.
Yeah. Also, I do want to address that previously with the Meadows Landing commercial development approved, they went through before our stormwater management ordinance took effect. So just to clear the air, that this new proposal will have to be reviewed against our new stormwater management ordinance as of April 2011.
Okay, that's.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you, Ms.
Yeah,
Galati.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Custer.
You're welcome.
Good plan.
Yep, okay. Moving on. Okay, we're done with that.
I'm sorry, this is Hal Kessler again. I didn't quite catch the end of that. What is the status of the application at this point?
This is a pre-application meeting, Mr. Kessler, so there's nothing for us to vote on.
Right.
Or any action for us to take at this point.
Okay.
There's
I have
no application before us at this time.
I have one question, Fred. This is Joe Kopko. I had a question, and I know I've probably asked this before over the whole history of this thing, but does the township have copies of the record documents of how, because the one question that Mrs. Scavati asked that kind of struck a nerve with me was about the actual construction of the embankments and the drainage. And the question is, do we have record documents of that original embankment and drainage construction? And if not, do they exist in the applicant's files so that we can put to bed any kind of controversy regarding whether or not the original embankment and drainage was properly installed? I don't, there was a comment made about doing test pits and things like that. I think that the most we could ask for was, if we don't already have it, to see the record documents of how it was constructed. And that's my only question.
Absolutely. And we would have that and then some. Gateway Engineers designed all of the work up in that area. It has been tested a number of times as a result of the appeals of Mrs. Scavati. It has had.
ACA was actually the engineer on that.
I'd like to continue, please. ACA Engineering is a geotechnical firm, so Mrs. Scavati, I'm sorry, that's not relevant, but
That's the reports that I have.
Ms. Scavati, please.
I'd really like to try to get through this thought. What we will do is we will compile all of that information, the reports that were done, the construction of the Pond 1 up in that area, the wetlands area, which is not in any way impacting this issue. And there are multitudes of drawings. I believe we have an as-built. We have done testing ad nauseum, and it's been done over so many years, I can't remember all the detail, but we will certainly provide that whole package to you in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I certainly would open up the township engineers or anybody from the township to Gateway, Sean Donnelly, to answer any questions you may have. We have Scheffler and Company is handling this phase of the development, but Gateway laid out all of the original master plan and everything that's on file with the township at this point, in addition to a lot of things that the township may not have pursuant to the ensuing litigation. So we'll not only get that to you, but I'm encouraging or inviting the township on our dime to have the engineers take a look at this. I believe it's KLH, take a look at this and see if they see any issues. And if there are issues, we're going to take care of them. That's all there is to it. But I know on this side of the table, there haven't been, and that has been determined. But I just.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have, I'll have to ask Brandon about this, but we had different township engineers, Whitmer Engineering and Rich Rush, and I think he was out there also in the past looking at this when it was recently constructed. So we may have records on those inspections, Joe.
Who is,
2006 or whatever the heck that was.
I'm sorry, who is Rich with, Rich,
Rich Rush.
that's right.
Yeah, Rich Rush is the engineer. He was our township engineer. He's a Widmer engineer.
Okay,
Mr.
that's,
Pizzuto, I have asked for right-to-know inspection reports before, during, and after, and I have emails showing that there were no inspections done at any time on this site, only the last one in July.
Well, this will all be determined as we go forward, once we get all the information in from all the parties involved, and all that will be determined. We can argue about it till next week sometime. But
Okay.
without information at hand, there's nothing we can do right now until we get that information, period.
well, we'll get you the information, and what I guess I'm asking is, do we wait until there has been an opinion rendered, or do we want to move forward on the basis that any approvals are going to be conditioned upon us taking care of this by the end of the day to the satisfaction of the township and according to the township stormwater maintenance ordinance?
Mr. Kessler, that's up to you. Right now, nobody's saying it. Nothing's wrong with the process. I mean, you were on our agenda for another pre-application meeting. I'm not sure if you have made any kind of application to continue this meeting to the Board of Supervisors or not. I don't know.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, I think it may be, this is Brandon Stanek, Mr. Kessler. We'll speak to Alan tomorrow or on Monday to get the rundown, but if you want to take a trip back to the board and show them again how you've addressed what the planning commission has expressed and then what they expressed previously, feel free to do that. They'll meet at the end of the month in January. Also, if you want to go ahead and apply for the rezoning of this from C2 to the residential district you're requesting, feel free, because that is the vehicle by which we'll take the master plan through.
Great. I'm going to leave that up to Alan and our counsel, who's Jim McCune. He's not on the call this evening. And we'll let you know probably tomorrow, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll call you tomorrow. We'll let you know.
All right, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Good. Tomorrow's landing is moving forward here, and we'll see where we are with that next month. The next item is a PA Financial 2 LLC to rezone 55 acre parcel from C2 general designation to an R4 medium density residential designation. Intersection of Route 19 Burkett Lane, with consideration of a master plan for the Burkett Manor planned residential development at the same location.
I'm going to take away the cover memo here.
Yeah.
All right. So the township is in receipt of an application from PA Finance 1, rezone a 55.6 acre tract of land along Burkett Lane from C2 general commercial to R4 medium density residential. The applicant is also seeking to build upon the master plan pre-application discussion with the planning commission from December 3rd to the proposed Burkett Manor PRD on the aforementioned site. This proposed PRD includes a mixture of age-targeted single-family dwelling sites totaling 137 dwelling units. Please note, the original discussion involved a climate-controlled self-storage facility, which is no longer being considered. The applicant will be using the acreage previously considered for the self-storage facility for the construction of 33 townhomes. Key takeaways from the December 3rd Planning Commission discussion include the following. The site has difficult topography and steep slopes. Passive and active recreation facilities are yet to be determined. The 50-acre lot will need rezoned to residential. The Burkett Lane is a privately owned street, and the applicant was asked to meet the fire chief to ensure adequate access for emergency vehicles. Key takeaways from the December 15th Board of Supervisors discussion included the following. The board expressed their desire to see alternative points of access for future development. The community will be include age-targeted dwellings at a price point in the high 400s. Recreational amenities will include pickleball courts, low-impact walking trails, etc. and development will closely reflect the Water Dam Farms development in North Strabane Township. Steve and Victor of Victor Welso Associates will be in attendance to address questions.
Well, one thing I appreciate here by the engineer, Victor Wetzel Associates, is the one topo map on sheet 2. It shows the shaded areas that are excessive flow. So it sort of proves their point that, you know, access to Route 19, which is typically what commercial development desire, is really not feasible, just the way the topography is here. And I don't know if, I mean, at the time it was zone C2, I think it just said everything up the Route 19 corridor is now hereby designated C2. But I really don't think it's a bad thing to have it rezoned to R4, because I don't know if it will just sit there for another 20 years and never be developed as a commercial zone. So
That was looked at years ago, remember, that's Morgantown.
yeah,
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 whatever they were.
right. And I think, you know, we looked at this zoning over here on this Burkett Lane and Park Place, and then it goes into North Strabane right there.
Right.
And, you know, they eliminated that high-rise storage unit. I believe they also agreed to the wider lots. Is that, am I looking at the right one, or is that another one coming up?
There's 60-foot wide.
60-foot lots, but I think they decided that they agreed to go to 75 feet or 70-foot lots.
Maybe could you address the lot size, if there was any sort of difference between the original application and this one?
You know what, I'm sorry, I take that back. I think we're talking to Andrew.
Oh, Bradford, yes.
Bradford, right, I think that's the
Yeah,
one they.
that's the
agreed-
one we
they-
talked about.
They agreed to make the lots a little wider.
Yeah, that's not this one.
Sorry about that.
This is the R4, so it's
No, they're noting 2 streets, I guess, running through there are going to become township roads.
Yeah.
coming off of the private road. Have we addressed that?
So the intent is, and Stephen, feel free to jump in, maybe I'll set this up, but the intent is for Burkett Lane to become a private road, or not a private road, but to become a public road. And I think, Stephen, you have had conversations with Park Place.
Yes, we have. And yes, that is our intention, that the first several hundred feet beginning at Washington Road and coming up to our intersection would be dedicated for public use, and make that a public street so that then it continues on into our plan as a public street.
And I would ask moving forward that when that turns over as a public street to the township, that it's freshly resurfaced.
I couldn't hear. Could you tell me, say that again?
Before that becomes a public street and the township takes it over, I would recommend the planning commission consider a fresh resurfacing of that road.
Obviously, that if the existing roadway is substandard, then it would need to be brought up to township specifications. Absolutely.
Right, yeah, there's one part, as soon as you come in and turn where the service station is.
Yeah, right.
That's where it stops, the rest of it turns into a country road.
I do have another suggestion. It might sound a little picky, but in naming the roads, you have Aspen Court, okay? And I happen to live on Aspen Drive.
We've been told that already, and yes, that street name will change.
Okay.
And-
Now, I'll
and
tell you, there's a little
just-
story. When I grew up on east end of Pittsburgh, I lived at 735 Braddock Road, and it was also a 735 Braddock Avenue, and it was the same zip code too. So we
Yeah, no.
invariably got crisscross mail all the time. So I don't care what you name it. I just thought it eliminates some confusion down the road. For you.
Sure.
Fred,
For me.
maybe you could have,
I personally don't want any more Aspens other than Aspen Drive.
Fred, maybe you could have yours changed to Pizzuto Drive.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Park Place.
The way that the street naming works is it's often the developer will put forth a name, and then it goes through a review by the postmaster and 9/11. And just like we discovered your Aspen Court, that this would obviously require us to do a name change. So we're still very early into this process.
Yeah.
This is simply the master planning and the rezoning. At the time of a formal PRD submittal, we'll lock down those names even tighter.
Yeah,
Hopefully get it correct.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm surprised you even talked about that already, but I appreciate that.
Can you, Patrick, do you have the map, or maybe they have it again, that shows the zoning districts around?
Yeah.
I believe they're the agricultural districts and the other, just so we can see that again.
Yeah. Stephen,
Patrick, I
knew he had that before from the prior presentation.
Patrick, can you see?
Yeah.
Patrick, can you see the screen sharing I have put up?
Yeah, Stephen, you're good.
Yeah, so you can see the zoning of the site is that the red area that we've outlined is our 50-acre site, and it's zone C2, and that the zoning to the north, west, and south of us is also C2, and that it's the zoning to our south and east is A1, and the blue line running from the left central to the top left, I'm sorry, right central to left top, is the boundary line with North Strabane. So that we have not put North Strabane's zoning categories on there. We've only put yours zoning boundaries.
Where's the closest high density residential that we have to that? Is that going to be by Paul's place?
Yeah, basically
The town.
Yeah. The townhomes on.
Yeah,
It's not that far.
Yeah, North Strabane, the development up by the.
And North Strabane's.
North Strabane's right there.
Yeah, that was townhomes and everything behind the meadow.
South. Yeah, right.
Okay.
You got that stuff right there, right off.
Still North Strabane.
No, I mean, South Strabane, Cameron Road. Oh, yeah, and all that, Arrowhead Trail or whatever it is.
I think the closest would be Strabane Manor.
Right.
Would be on the opposite side of Washington Road, just south of us a little ways, not far.
Not to keep bringing up this open space, but when, you calculated your percentages on open space, we recently redid our open space, green space ordinance. And I just wondered, when you did the calculations, there's different guidelines to follow. Did you go by the new guidelines that were set up? Do you know?
All we were identifying here was not for PRD purposes, in which those percentages, because quite honestly, those percentages, are really come more importantly into play when you do this PRD submittal. So if you were to ask me what our percentage is here, I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, it's on the
But I-
plan, Stephen.
But I believe it is. I believe that it does meet your requirements.
The new, because I know there were if there was such a certain steep slope, you couldn't count that. Is that right? So you're saying, Chris, they did.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Right at the top. About the,
Oh,
about the
okay.
middle, also the open space.
Okay.
Minimum
That's
open
what
space.
I did see that sheet and I didn't get that part.
Hey.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I just want to make sure there's no surprises later.
No, we've read your ordinance and we believe that the open space we are showing is in compliance with it. I just can't quote off the top of my head what those numbers are.
No, that's okay. As long as Chris said that you went with the new stuff, so that's good.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question on sheet number 6, where you have Black Oak Lane, and then you have a sort of a secondary access out to Meadowview Road through that parcel. Have you had any discussions with that landowner about that potential other access into the development?
As in response to your comments last month about looking for additional means of access because we are limited to just access off Burkett Lane.
Right.
We then did a study to determine that it is feasible off of Black Oak to have 2 interconnecting streets. And so, no, we have not contacted that property owner. And in some ways that may not really be very fruitful because that property owner today, to the best of our knowledge, is not interested in developing it or interested, in proceeding this moment. Yeah. And we are not in desire of purchasing any additional property. But what we have done is that we have provided specifically 50-foot right-of-way accesses to the Davis School interconnect. And we've terminated the cul-de-sac here right at the property line in a temporary cul-de-sac so that there is a connection on out to Meadowview Road. We've shown where that intersection can occur at a place where there is safe sight distance along Meadowview, because there are both horizontal and vertical curves along that roadway. And we've specifically picked that location and then have shown the contouring necessary to construct such a road. And the same thing goes on the Davis School Road access through here. We did look at the feasibility of interconnectivity off of our second cul-de-sac, Redbud Lane, but because of the topography, this area of the site, it really was not feasible for any extended road conditions. So, and if you look off to the far right there, that's already developed for the apartment site. So it's not as if we could have built a loop around and come back to Burkett Lane.
Yeah, but it is feasible, so.
Mr. Victor, this is Chris Furman. I reviewed these plans getting ready for this meeting today with Brandon. There's 2 things I want to mention now before we get much further, and so you're aware of it. The first is that there is a buffer requirement that I think you should show on your plan. You have the setbacks going along the edge of the property line, but there's 2 different buffers you're going to have. Where you connect with the A1 area, you're going to have a buffer area A, and around the rest of the property, you're going to have a buffer area C. A is 35 feet and C is 15 feet. So I think you might want to show that on your plan, on your master plan, and so they're aware of it as well. And the second issue that we discussed today is your setback off of Burkett Lane. Burkett Lane, if that's going to be dedicated to the township, your setback should be reflected to show, or on the master plan, that should be pushed another 50 feet from the edge of where the road is, not including the road.
Well, let me talk to those 2 points.
Yeah.
Currently on the plan, we have identified the 50-foot perimeter setback.
Yes.
For the single family. So we show those, and it certainly will be no problem within those to add the buffer yard requirements that you're speaking of. Absolutely no problem.
And I think you should add that in there. Are you aware though that the buffer zone, which I think it's only going to be 15 feet around the 3 sides of your zone, but 35 along where the A1 is, that buffer zone has to be held by whoever's going to hold the open space, the HOA.
I had that discussion with Brandon and Patrick a few days ago. And in my reading of the ordinance, I pointed out that I believed it did not specify that it had to be maintained as public or common area, otherwise greenway. And I asked for clarification.
Okay.
If the clarification comes back and it does need to be greenway, in it, you know, that the buffer yard needs to be specifically in greenway land, open space land, we'll be happy to do that. But I believe, in my opinion, it doesn't do that. Now, as to the townhouse area, it has a 75-foot setback from the perimeter. This property owns to the other side of Burkett Lane. We own that, and it's intended that that portion only of Burkett to our intersection will become public. So the public dedication will end here. And therefore, this is our property line, and it is from that we measured to our 75-foot setback.
Well, what I'm suggesting is where it's going to be dedicated, that's being reflected on the master plan.
That's no problem. We can do that.
And I can clarify for you where, give me 1 second to pull it out here. I thought I had it in front of me. You can keep talking while I look at it, but I did confirm that the buffer area does have to be, is not going to be sold. That has to be kept in the ownership of the HOA.
No problem then.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking for that. I thought I had it in front of me, but it got buried with my other stuff here as we went along.
Yeah, no problem. And as to the 75 feet, again, it's from the perimeter. The fact that we own it and then dedicate it, it's still part of our property. So we may want to look at that closer as we get into it, but
yeah, we have to address that. I just want to make sure that's not a problem going forward.
no problem. We'll identify the area for proposed public street on Burkett.
Okay.
If that is like the piece that public stops and that's private, like you said, like I see the line. That's, I mean, even like that's their property, but do we have any right to request some type of setbacks, like safety wise, or
If they went,
you know what I mean? I mean, you don't want the house sitting on a road.
no, because public, I think later on.
Was that, so actually, you're making a point that's making me think, Jay, regardless of whether that's their property or not, because of the unknowingness of what the future holds, should they still maintain that setback requirements to stay,
Well, that really comes public up to.
it will come public, to- right?
Right here.
But that's what he's come from, their property line. But their property line goes over, they actually own the roadway that's going back. So apparently these Park Place must have an easement to go into there. And this new, facility here that's going in has to have an easement too. If they have
an entrance on.
Mr. Victor, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes?
Okay, this is in the PRD, chapter 245. Section 245-96 I.
But the thing is there's
4, which is buffer
road
area.
there.
All buffer areas shall not be incorporated into common open space and shall not be permitted to be part of any individual lot in the PRD. So I just think you should show that on there. That would be
You got it. I appreciate your clarifying that. I did not catch that in the ordinance, but we can do that.
You know why? Because it's not in the buffer chapter. It's in the PRD chapter.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a supplemental regulations for buffer areas and landscaping, but that's actually not in that section. It's in the PRD section.
No problem.
Yep.
I'm not sure, there was some discussion going on regarding setbacks.
Yes, maybe I was having some conversations here with some from fellow members, and you were making a statement. I know how your property line goes over the Burkett Lane, and you're talking about it being public only up to the point of entry into this PRD. My concern is just that not knowing what future development will bring, the fact that that is a private lane and those townhomes are there, I'm questioning whether we should still request or whether we have the right to request the same setback we would have it been a public road, just for the sake of future development for planning purposes and safety sake.
And I can address that.
Okay.
The dashed line that you see here on my plan
Yes,
is the 75-foot setback.
but that's from your property line, not the roadway.
Correct, correct. Give me a second.
Okay,
There's a Burkett Lane is a 50-foot right-of-way. Therefore, this setback is 25 feet from the road right-of-way.
okay,
The PRD standard is 25-foot setbacks, as can be seen in the single-family lot area and as can be seen in the townhouse area here. So we are in compliance
okay. All right.
with the setback requirements for, if Burkett ever becomes totally public,
Yes,
then we are in compliance with its setback requirements. We're not going to put the townhouses, right up against the road right of way.
okay, thank you. That's where my concern was, yeah. Oh, one other question, just, I know we had talked about meeting, did you end up getting to meet with the fire chief as far as those accesses in, and if he feels things are okay safety-wise for that?
We did not. Instead, what we did was we sort of had conversations with the supervisors and then with the staff in regards to finding alternative access means. And so that's where we have it at this point in time. I think the expectation is we would be meeting with the fire marshal next.
Okay, that would be good, yes, because if you don't have any right-of-ways or easements or right-of-ways or okays with those other adjacent property owners, you still need to make sure that things are okay with the fire chief.
We did speak with our traffic engineer. And as you know, when we do submit PRD, there'll be a traffic report with it. And his professional opinion is that from strictly a traffic perspective, there is nothing wrong with having the access systems that we have at this time. They would certainly be enhanced with having the interconnectivities in the future, but in his opinion, there is nothing wrong with the single access to the development we have. And he'll show that in his traffic report at the time of a PRD submittal. But we're happy to meet with the fire marshal, and if he has additional suggestions or comments, let's work with him.
Are you guys okay? Is it really all right?
Somebody, you guys thought that was me last time.
Somebody roll it out. Let's go back to the zoning. How does that fit into our the strategic plan, comprehensive plan, excuse me? Was that area talked about?
The future land use map is a mixed use.
Okay.
And with a combination of mixed use and having residential areas and commercial areas.
Along that corridor?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That was
Like
my
I said,
last
I
question.
really think that it's the best use for the land. How it is. In commercial, I can't see a commercial guy doing this unless he's gonna turn it into a strip line off the whole mountain block off.
There's gonna be more.
We'll have the engineer thoughts on this as well.
I don't think he's gonna have much to say. But yeah. You want to see if Scott wants to say anything, and then if there's any other residents on for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're ready.
Yeah, we'll review it. There's a few review items.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Scott, do you have anything you want to say on this proposed zoning change?
No, I didn't. I think you guys covered most of it. I just would say that, it is compliant with an R4 zoning, obviously. I went through all the setbacks and the PRD requirements, and it is compliant. for the rezoning.
Well,
Any residents on have a comment?
Are there any comments from the general public out there on this proposal?
Right.
Nobody from Little Caesars or Dairy Queen came over to have anything to say?
They're time in the sun next to you. That's the advertisement.
Went down and get their car wash and ice cream.
That's
That's right. That's right.
As you know, this is going to be a multi-step process. So tonight was the application for the rezoning and packaging it with the master plan so that the township will be fully knowledgeable as to what is proposed for the property. And if we are successful with the rezoning and the master plan, then we will be returning to you 2 more times, one for the preliminary PRD and then second time for the final PRD. So a lot of the details that may be floating around out there will certainly be addressed at the time of preliminary and final PRD. But we are anxious to move forward, and if you're prepared to do so, we would appreciate a recommendation to the supervisors to initiate the public hearing process.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments, I'm going to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to hold a public hearing regarding the rezoning of a 55-acre parcel off of Burkett Lane, currently zoned C2 to R4, with the applicant of PA Financial 2 LLC. Second. I have a second from Mr. Gordon. Can I have a vote? All in favor?
We haven't. I'm sorry.
Aye.
What was your vote? Because I was going to ask if there's more discussion. Are you doing the zoning?
We're recommending the zoning change to the Board of Supervisors.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt over the odds.
Okay, well, we have all ayes, no nays. So the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to hold a public meeting to actually make the zoning change is approved by the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time on this.
Thank you.
That's the master plan too.
I think we did.
There should be a formal recommendation.
Do we need that?
I would recommend,
I would recommend it to paper it up.
Just to, close that out.
And I do want to have a suggestion for your recommendation too.
Over here.
Hey, Brandon, this is Ryan Klausnitzer. Are we also going to recommend possibly a vote to approve the master plan tonight as well?
That's what we're talking about right now.
Okay, great. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That's all right.
So I was speaking with Mr. Vicker earlier, and he said that he would reflect and revise his plan to show where the buffer zones were, which is 15 around 3 sides and 35 on the A1. We had a little discussion about the perimeter setback, and you were talking, Paula, with him about the setbacks for the street. My concern is, and I've been talking with Brandon about this too, when Burkett Lane gets dedicated, he's going to have to give us a deed of dedication for that section. And if it is planned or envisioned to be public in the future, another deed of dedication, I think we should reflect the perimeter to be the edge of the street rather than the edge of the property line, because that's not going to be property.
Yeah.
Now, as he did explain, it's 75 feet from his property, so with the roadway being 50 foot, the Berkeley is 50, then there's 25 feet from there, which is the PRD.
But the road is not going to be his property.
The road
when it's dedicated.
in the middle of the right of way.
Well, what's the setback from a road now?
That's
25 feet?
He's saying
This is
25
25 feet.
Right. So he's still meeting those
So
requirements.
it's 5 feet past the 20 feet.
Except to the extent
gotta
that,
say what
you're show you something.
Yeah.
So when this comes in, he comes in off of here, okay? Whatever, up to here. This is going to be dedicated to the
I
township.
understand.
Okay, so this is going to be his line here. This is not going to be his property. He's going to give us a deed of dedication. unless he retains this on this other side. So, but I don't think this is the full right of way. That's the actual cartway, isn't it? It looks like it's just following the cart path, the cartway.
Yeah, the road isn't 50 feet wide.
No, that's
So
what
the
he's
right of
saying
way
it
is,
That's what I'm.
Like
He's
it's
saying
30
the
feet
Berkeley way.
wide,
No,
it's
unless
like
he's
two
talking about
lanes
that
of
front
road.
way is 50. Like
Yeah, up here.
50.
Maybe up here.
Oh, that's, yeah, that's,
But
that
not
makes a big
here.
difference here. I
not
agree. with
here.
you.
So when this is dedicated by date of dedication, this becomes the property line over here, and the
Yeah.
75 has to go here. He's got to push those back a little bit more.
I agree with you. That was my concern, but that's what he's saying, that this is already 50 foot, but.
But only
he's
at the
talking-
entrance.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
don't think he understands, or he's not. It needs clear.
Yeah, Mr. Victor, on the, when you come in off of the, your plan should reflect what the 50-foot right of way is, not just a cart path. And when that's going to be dedicated as a public road, that's going to have to move your perimeter setback where it becomes a public road.
I have a hard time understanding that, because when the application is made, we own to the other side of Burkett Lane.
Well,
And
that's
your
kind of
ordinance-
disingenuous, don't you think?
The ordinance says that the 75-foot perimeter setback is measured from the property we own. So I think it is fair to say the 75 feet is measured from the north, from our property line to a point 75 feet away.
Except that you have to exercise willful blindness to the fact that that is going to be dedicated as a part of your plan. Yeah, we can't operate in vacuum, Stephen. That's not going to be your property line.
It is our property line. The fact that we're going to dedicate it doesn't change the perimeter. The perimeter is the perimeter. The fact that after we create lot number one, we will sell it and we will no longer own it. It's sort of the same thing. Yes, there may come a day where we don't own Burkett Lane as we do now, but today we do.
Well, part of the problem now is we still, as it stands now, that, we go back to that being a private road, that you can't have these lots off of a private road as it stands right now. So my other recommendation, as far as the master plan was going to go, there has to be some indication on the master plan that that's going to be, that is a public road. It's going to be contingent on that being a public road, because as the ordinance stands now, you cannot have these lots off of a private road.
I understand, and
that's-
we will add.
All the way back to the edge of your property line where the townhome's in. It's
We-
really where
Didn't-
that has become.
Didn't Stephen mention though, once it does become a public road, that the setback would become 25 feet, which is what he actually has shown here?
No, we're talking about the perimeter setback, not the setback from the street. The perimeter of a PRD is 75 where you have townhomes.
Yeah, but
The perimeter is going to be moved, is what we're saying.
Well, it
And I'm
isn't.
going- Well, you guys can take the position you want, but I'm telling you now, I'm suggesting to the commission tonight, that they make a recommendation to the board, that they require you to reflect that on your plan.
Okay.
That's all.
Right. We will, as if you can see on the screen here, this is the area that we talked about with Brandon and Patrick about
Yeah.
dedicating for public road right away.
Yes.
But
And then this portion would remain private.
you can't then.
And what we're discussing right now is, should this line be here or moved back 50 more feet?
Correct.
And so if we're whichever way you wish. Personally, we'd want to keep it where we have it, but if your recommendation is that it be moved back another 50 feet, please make that recommendation.
Okay.
Where there's townhomes.
Yeah, I mean, we want to hammer this out now before it becomes something later to deal with, to try and fix.
We don't disagree with you, and that's why I say
Okay, excellent. Thank you very
if
much.
that's the only sticking block for us right now.
That's all I
What
see.
if the Burkett Lane
From the entrance.
From what you
It's
have
gonna
now
stay
for
private.
the recommendation today.
That's
Yeah.
what can it
19
stay?
to the development, all the roads in the development. I don't know if you want to do that.
We had one recommendation
The commission is discussing now, look, you can hear. Mr. Vickers.
okay, we had one recommendation to change the zoning from C2 to R4. And this second recommendation to the Board of Supervisors is for the master plan update. Tom, do you want to make that motion? I wasn't quite sure.
You wanna
where the
recommend,
second motion was going.
you wanna recommend to the supervisors that they approve the master plan with the following changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a buffer zone.
yep, include the buffer zone and push that perimeter setback to reflect the future public road, as being the.
And reflect, I think reflect how, but reflect that the portion of Burkett Lane that's going to be converted to public road, what they're proposing. And also, they should be reflecting on the plan how, they don't own that property, so how is that gonna happen?
Well, Mr. Vickers just said, if you wanna make the recommendation to push it, go ahead and make the recommendation.
To push the approval of the plan?
No, to push the perimeter.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, okay, I think that's part of that. I think Patrick getting that, 'cause I'm not gonna be able to restate that part.
Yeah.
My other part is, I think it needs to be reflected on this plan that, and if it's on there and I'm missing it, I apologize. That clearly reflects the portion that's going to be, that they're proposing to make public road of Burkett Lane and how they plan on doing that since they don't own the property.
Correct. We understand.
Okay?
Absolutely.
That's
And
all.
Great.
For clarity's sake, because I'm not sure I totally understood what was being said, but for clarity's sake, it would be my suggestion that the 75-foot setback be measured from the southerly right-of-way of Burkett. Currently, I've measured it from the northerly right-of-way. And so just for the record, we're saying that you want it measured from the 75-foot, 75 feet from the southern right-of-way of Burkett Lane.
Yep, okay.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
So if Patrick can clean that up, that's my motion.
You want to read that back, Patrick?
He's still working on it.
I'll be honest, I'll probably work through it tomorrow. I can give you the 3 points was clearly indicate how Burkett Lane will become public. 2 will be, clearly indicate the buffers for the appropriate zoning district, buffer zone A and C. And then 3 would be the 75 setback to be measured from the southernmost point right away of Burkett Lane.
Southern. The
Southern side.
point, the southern
side.
Southern runaway of Burkett Lane.
Southern side.
Southern side.
Yeah,
Southern side.
Side.
Let it talk.
Farthest
Yep.
way of the southern.
I'll second it.
In review of
Okay.
the fire chief.
Yeah, oh yeah, and
review
review
with
the
fire
fire
chief,
chief.
yes.
Point 4 review by.
I'll second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the other recommendation carries.
No, can I have
All
a
right.
question for clarification?
Again, thank you. And I have written down your comments and we will adjust the plans and get revised plans to Patrick here shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night now.
Good night, thank you.
Clarification.
We're going on to item 9. Consideration of building subdivision land development application for the Southport Development Phase 1 of the Strabane property. All right, we have the engineer's report.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Nate Phillips. I'm with Chapman Properties. With me tonight is George Haberman and Jerry Kladowski as our consultants that have been helping with the project. This is our first phase of Chapman Southport, the land development phase. It represents a finished pad acreage of about 7 acres. It includes some utility extensions to service this pad and stormwater amenities, obviously, alongside of all the earthwork. It represents basically our first opportunity to bring land to market on this site. So I know we've been running long. I'll let Jerry take it as far as the particulars, and any questions, I'm happy to do my best to respond.
All right, thanks, Nate. So good evening, everyone. So as Nate said, this is the first phase of this overall development. It's a pad of approximately 7 acres. The total disturbance of this phase is approximately 19 acres. The overall property is approximately 154 acres. We also have in with the township right now a subdivision plan that revised some of the existing property lines within that 154 acres. Some of it was a consolidation and then a re-subdivision into 2 separate lots. One lot, zone C3, which this pad resides in, is approximately 88 acres. The other pad, which is further to the south, is zoned as a R5 high density residential and mixed use, and that comprises of approximately 66 acres to make up that total 154 acres. Included with this pad development is approximately 192,000 cubic yards of earth moving. That can be seen on this plan here, where we're going to have substantial cut volume taken from the top of the hill and placed as fill along the bottom, creating this flat pad for future developments. There are no buildings, parking, or landscaping being proposed. The only landscaping that's being proposed is to, seed and mulch the slopes, and depending on the time of the year, the pad itself. The idea is just to give a general idea of what the pad can look like for any future prospective tenants that may want to build here. So depending on the time of the year will depend if we're going to seed the entire pad or just the slopes as they develop.
Do you have any tenants proposed or interested?
We do not at this time. Really, in our experience right now in this market, commercially speaking, we've got another development up in Findlay Township, and we found that the best way to advertise a site is to actually build a pad and take it to market for buildings. We also develop buildings, and so if the right tenant came along, we would consider building a building or take this property out for sale. But for right now, we want to make this initial investment in the property to bring a marketable pad to South Strabane.
I'm going to ask you another question. Based on the configuration of your pad and your cut there, you do about 50 feet of cut into this heavy limestone. Do you envision any blasting you're going to need to do, or any special requirements on line blasting, anything like that? Because I've had experience on some of this, and it's going to be some pretty tough going to get a third of that pad in based on, your core boring information and everything. I was just wondering about, you guys discussed that.
We have not discussed any type of blasting, and really the rock cut is this slope along this edge here. Typically contractors prefer not to blast. They would rather try to, hoe ram that rock and try to break it up into pieces and then crush it on site and reuse it. So really that's a means and methods on how the contractor would handle that excavation. Certainly if blasting needed to occur, that they would be required to obtain any permits through South Strabane to get that taken care of.
Good luck.
So just moving on with just a general description of the pad itself, there's utilities currently out on Tanger Boulevard. We're extending water and a gas sleeve across Tanger Boulevard so that the utilities are near, or at least on the pad side of Tanger Boulevard. So all the tenant would have to do is hook up to those extensions or pull through the sleeve. Telecom and electric is all on east side of Tanger, so the connections can be made right off the side of the road right there. Sanitary is what was discussed prior to the meeting. There are some sanitary sewers that run through the parcel. You can sort of see it on here. The existing sanitary is this lighter gray. And since we are putting some fill in here, the municipal engineer had requested that we raise this section of sewer to bring it up to about 16 feet in depth, which we've shown here. And then the force main that was discussed earlier is also going to be relayed to follow the new alignment of the sanitary gravity sewer. So those drawings have been submitted for review, included with this package. So
do you have any comments from Lee on that sewer relocation and force main and all? Or are they still reviewing?
I heard you, Fred.
I said, do you guys have any letters from Lee on this proposal and the relocation of the sewer lines? Or are they still reviewing?
no, we do not. Not at this point.
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, and I think, I'm not sure what drawing you want to show it on, but you should indicate that wetland a little more clearly down by that pump station, since that was a permitted mitigation site, just so. And somebody had mentioned to put in a, some kind of construction barrier around there when you're doing the NS work. Probably a good way to.
I have those notes, Jerry.
Okay.
Hot water.
Does that wetland come all the way back into here?
It's right in there, yes.
Okay, I thought it might have been up here.
Yeah, it's all pretty much along Racetrack Road where.
Yeah.
Technically, the township line, the creek, was that the 1 point
Yeah, I know.
on Racetrack Road? I remember something.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the township line is. I know the creek is like up by Burkett Lane and everything where we were talking.
I think they moved, didn't they move the creek when they did Racetrack Road and slid it over?
Yeah.
But it's kind of in Racetrack.
I'm not sure on that, really.
I'm just thinking back something.
Because I know on the other side of 19, North Strabane is that creek on Burkett Lane.
Right.
By the Dairy Queen and all that. That differentiates south.
It's not real.
But down here, I don't know where North Strabane ends and South Strabane starts. I'm not sure.
Well, actually, the township line in this area runs along the stream.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that answers my question.
This question is for Township Engineer Scott Groom. Scott, this is Brandon.
Yes.
I was browsing over the letter. I did not see. Can you confirm verbally for the commission that this is in compliance as well with the agreement of the September 2019?
Yes, it does. The master plan, it is in agreement with the master plan that I reviewed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? None? All right, do I have a motion on this?
Point of.
Wait a minute, go ahead, Tom.
One question, Scott, in your review letter talking about the land development process, that are the deficiencies you're mentioning in this letter to be addressed in your letter?
Yes.
So those are the only deficiencies you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
One point to recommend is the application And of course, review letters by the engineer referred to preliminary and final land development approval. In the agenda, it just said preliminary.
Right, you mentioned it.
Well, there is a problem with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that is a glitch.
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
We're not allowed to change it, do a pen and ink change on the agenda once it's on the agenda, even though we miss saying preliminary and final. We can't just say that now. We make any kind of, that's.
I thought we used to do that.
We used to, but then there
I
was
was thinking that we
change that
probably have
happened.
done that before with
I know we did it with
a
all these.
recommendation, and approval, but
We did used to. I remember us used to being able to do that, but then something changed. Joe
See,
might
I think you
remember
guys
more.
might have thought that a policy. So I know we did that with Aldi's when they came in, they had everything perfect. We were like, "Oh, we're just gonna do fine."
yeah.
But then
And
you're
that's
right.
happened a couple times that I know of. And I think you guys talked about,
Well, we usually would
did.
say, okay, I mean, we talked about this is back to John Stickle. He'd say, well, this seems really complete. We'll make it, preliminary and final. We'll say,
Right,
okay,
right.
John. But I mean, if we have it at the meeting, when we're having the meeting, say, well, we don't say it. We can't just say, okay, let's make a preliminary and final, and make that decision at the meeting. It has to be done before it be on the agenda.
Can't make a recommendation here.
No, there were. I
Problem
can't
is, it
remember
hasn't
why.
been advertised for final. Is that,
that's the issue.
Well, there you
Maybe
go.
that's
Okay,
it.
all right. Okay.
I don't know. I'm asking the question.
Yeah. Can we,
That's right. it's gonna- that's what
can we
put out
approve
there on
it
the-
based on the advertisement and if there's no problems with that, then it's approved?
Yeah, is there any way to skin this as far as,
I want to say, Joe.
Again, I'm okay with that if it's not a problem, that we recommend it has to be advertised properly for the,
If
For the board of
it's advertised
supervisors,
properly, and
yeah.
there's no, no problems with it.
for the board of supervisors.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
okay.
Okay.
because this is recommending, I mean, you guys you could recommend against final anyway, but it still has to go to the board.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. but
All
why
right,
did
let's
we
make
do
sure it's
that?
proper. Let's go ahead and do
So
that.
we'll just
and make-
recommend preliminary, then when it kicked it up the can up the road, then say preliminary and final for the board of supervisors. Well,
But I don't think you can
Whole
do that
thing
because then
is
it
go
kind
to
of bypasses.
The whole thing has to go
us.
to the board, so you might as well do both.
yeah,
I'm okay with saying, if we make the motion to recommend, if you guys are gonna do this, we're okay with it. Make the recommendation for preliminary and final pending.
advertisement.
No, for the
Proper
board.
advertising for the board of supervisors.
I mean, that makes
Subject
sense.
to-
Okay.
It will be advertised.
As preliminary and final.
Preliminary and final before there's been.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'll just
We've had
ask that
that-
we
we've had
clarify
this
that
hang up
issue
before.
for next
Okay.
time. Because I know, again, there's one of these things that keeps coming around
Yeah,
sometimes, and I
well,
forget.
know we've got it.
See,
We
and I
waited
forget
a
what we've
whole
done.
month. We put them off for a month.
Yeah, we don't wanna do
just
that.
So we could rubber stamp final.
right.
But I think from here on out, we always come to preliminary. And then have the planning commission. Your
I'll
recommendation
take
would
the heat for
make
that. It was my fault.
Well, yeah, that. Just always,
But
But
no
we
longer
have had some, when we have an agenda meeting, that's the trouble. Now we're not having real agenda meetings.
Yeah, right,
Because
right.
at the agenda meeting,
We
we
would
look
have
and
put
say,
that,
you know what, let's just make this preliminary. Because we got too many loose ends. But now that we're doing it all on the same night,
we gotta adapt.
yeah,
So let's adapt the way.
yeah,
we
let's
just
do it that
discussed
way.
that.
Paul, do you wanna make a motion or do you want me to make a motion?
Well, why don't you do this one? I think I've done 2 or 3.
Okay.
Do this one.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion for a preliminary and final subdivision land development approval for the Southport Development Phase 1 of Chapman property for 7 acre, cap.
Subject to the engineer's comment.
Subject to the engineer's comments and subject to
Proper
advertisement that the board of supervisors. Okay, have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move. Yeah, we're gonna get through these.
I will, I'll put that on my notes.
I just remember it being an issue before. I think it was
All right,
also internal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck, guys. I'm glad you see.
Right. That's what I was.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a review of application of Mr. Joshua Dial for a preliminary final land development for a contractor's office building located at 1480 Pierce Avenue in the C2 Commercial Zoning District. And that's very shortly going to become an R4 zoning district. So I think that's why this is before us right now. So we can satisfy the residents in making it R4 and also satisfy Mrs. Schrantz and Mr. Dial and getting this done while it's still commercial.
I don't know if Josh is on the broadcast list. I'll read this. Anyhow, maybe he glitched out. I'm not sure.
He was on earlier, wasn't he?
There was a name that I didn't know who it was. It was like a letters and I don't know. Might have been him. I don't know. It didn't say Josh. They all.
Jamie, are you still on?
No.
He's up there. At the bottom, ready decision.
Okay.
There he is. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
We got John Q.
Chris,
Jamie's-
did you ask if Jamie was still on?
I did.
Yeah.
I am. I was like passively listening, so I don't know what the topic is.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just noticed you. That's all right. We were looking for somebody else and we noticed your name up there. That's all.
Okay, Scott, do you have any issues with this in your review?
Yeah, I had quite a list.
Boy.
It really looked like a very preliminary, this is really just a preliminary look at this. He's got quite a bit of work to do to get this through. You see some of the highlight points. He's got 14,000 square feet of impervious area, so he's gonna need a stormwater management plan. He needs to show contours. I mean, they kind of took the original plan of lots and showed the building and the parking, but he's gonna need more than that. He needs a lighting plan, landscaping, solid waste disposal and storage facilities, soil conditions. Stormwater management plan, erosion and sedimentation control plan. So he's really got to go through the ordinance and put together a proper land development plan.
Well, he's not here on the call right now.
Nope, I guess not.
Well, then he has to.
Yeah, we sent him the letter today. I mean,
Yeah.
I had his email address, so I got it to him, but.
He's not here.
Well-
He needs to pay all over again to do it, doesn't he?
He's got, in my
He hasn't paid
review
yet.
of.
well, there you go.
He hasn't
So
paid
we
yet.
denied,
either.
he's just
That's
go
the
back.
not even
application
complete.
fine.
He hasn't paid yet?
He hasn't paid $1 yet. So.
Well,
When
good.
he pays, my review of the case law is if he makes his application and pays his fee, he'll be fine. It will be okay, as long as he does that.
I'll be honest with you. I think the engineer's letter may have scared him off.
I would think so.
Too much to do.
Okay, that's good. That just jumped his cost.
And not to mention,
25%.
we didn't even dive into the weeds of the zoning nuances of it, which
Yeah.
he needs to
He
get a
needs
zoning
several.
special exception
It's
before
around,
this.
it's around Vegas purple.
Yeah. All right, go on.
It might be 10 o'clock after all.
Yeah, it might.
Gotta play the jinx, man.
Hi, Scott Groom.
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is Brandon. I had emailed you a couple of things about this Brackett Run plan at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not
I
sure
see that.
if I looked at emails perfectly, but just a couple of thoughts if we could call those out, just for clarification.
Yes.
All right, before we, and the McCoy Lane, and for the record, according to engineer's review, it's not recommended for approval. So hereby the board is gonna table this until we have a more complete package. Sorry, Mr. Dial. And Mrs. Schwartz is gonna be dead by the time this gets.
I know, that poor lady, I feel so bad for her.
No, it's recorded. We're not transcribing this. It's recorded though. What's left, Brad, for Brad?
Like one of those.
All right, yeah, we'll get out of here by 10.
All right, let's do Brad for running, and I gotta go.
Why would I look at that?
Preliminary and final subdivision plan.
Another chunk of subdivision. Yeah, it's just throwing it. Pretty basic stuff.
Okay.
Scott, won't you have Scott jump
So
in?
the item on the agenda here is preliminary and final subdivision land development approval for the Bradford Run Phase 4 residential development in R2 residential zoning district along Country Club Ave. Scott?
Yes, this has been, now I guess this actually predates me, but I did a review back in July. But this has been approved by both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. I think it's been approved 3 times. The plan hasn't changed in any way. Excuse me?
I think it's even more than that. It's been around, keeps coming and going, and I do have a question here before I want to interrupt you, Scott, but on the gateway letter here, it says the total distance required between road structures on adjacent lot shall be no less than 20 feet. We're requesting a waiver to allow this to be reduced to 15 feet between proposed structures. Well, I thought we decided we're gonna have 20 feet between structures, so I don't know why Gateway, what they're saying here in this letter, sort of contradicts.
And I agree with you, because if the subdivision plan reflects the 20 feet between structures, it has a 10-foot side building line. And that is the subdivision plans that they have submitted. So I'm a little confused about that myself.
We just approve it. We approve it. If we do approve it, and just note that.
Yeah, we'll approve it and say that this letter of Gateway
is incorrect.
Is incorrect.
I just had a quick question for John Quigley. Was that sort of sent just out of muscle memory with the packet of materials, or did you guys actually request that waiver?
I'm sorry.
Letter that was sent 6 months ago.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
The waiver that was sent, your application that you guys dropped off, it was the same waiver that was sent in 2019 and then 6 months ago as well. Was that sent in error, or did you guys really request that waiver again?
No, that would be an error. I had no discussions with Gateway after, when we came in the summer, the Planning Commission requested that we forego that approval that had been obtained back in whenever it was, 2013. And based on the product that Ryan Homes is building, it meets the requirements that you had requested, that the setbacks be, side yards be 10 foot each side. So yeah, we were fine with that. And I apologize if that came through. That was not our intention. So it must have been just an error in Gateway's form letter that they probably just reproduced it, knowing that we weren't making any other changes.
Because I thought the plans reflected that, wider lots.
We talked about that.
We talked about it. That's why that letter sort of confused me. I don't know what it conflicted with what the plan said.
Right. Yeah. I would just clarify for the Planning Commission that the subdivision drawing does have note number 4, which is the variance on the side yard setback. So that has been removed. And now you have 20 feet between structures. However, the land development plan, John, still has note number 4. Note number 4 needs to be removed.
removed.
Yeah. And then that request for modification letter needs to go away
Got it.
forever.
Okay, rather than take a break. I mean, this has been around a number of times. I think, I know there are wetlands here that are been addressed and protected, and I believe that bridge, if you go into the plan, that was originally in a different location. So we had to do something with the wetlands, but I mean, this, as I recall, looks like what we reviewed before. What the, I was going to ask you a question here in this, let me see if I can see it. Why are we not showing the full build out of these lots along this Lambert's loop? On the C100 page.
That is phase 5. I believe that's what you're referring to,
Yeah.
the next phase. Yeah, we're developing or proposing to develop phase 4 of the master plan. And phase 5 would be an additional set of lots. Ideally, we would come in this spring or early summer with the final phase approval.
Okay, so you're just sort of showing a preliminary grading on that, but you're not showing the actual lots yet.
That's correct.
Okay.
Also, John, would you want to address your plan in the next couple of months for the revised walking trail and facilities, and how we'll be including that on our letter of credit for phase 4, so we have it?
Yes. What we were proposing to do this spring, as I said, is to come in with the phase 5 plans. And as a part of that, we initially had, just in general terms, we had, when Gateway designed the master plan in 2007 or 8, and then again revised it in 13, the expectation was that there would be a majority of townhome owners. So it would have been younger professionals that were looking for maybe a more intense or aggressive hiking trail with exercise stations scattered around the outer perimeter of the development. But as we continued up and we converted from the S&A Homes group to Ryan, and Ryan wanted to do all single family homes, a large number of our buyers are first-time home buyers, some with young children. We also have moved on empty nester buyers. And so what the developer is looking at doing and he wanted to present it to you in more detail, is to have a combination of uses down in the flatter area of the development where the topography is better. The trail was designed to come in on Morgan Drive and then loop around up through very steep topography up to the top of the hill and then run along parallel with the Interstate Highway 79 and then wrap back down. What he would like to do is enhance the recreation use area down in that flatter topographic land just beyond if you look at well, I don't know if you have the master plan drawing in front of you there, but Morgan Drive on the left-hand side is where the trail was proposed to go in. And we want to do that, but maintain a lot of it or keep it down on topography that's flatter where a larger majority of people can use it. That a lot of people are doing exercise more so of walking and not as intense conditioning, but we would still be able to address those different features in the plan and maybe have a something with a pavilion type of setup, some fire pit areas, little locations or vistas out into where the stream runs and the wetlands and the undisturbed areas where they could walk in the evening sit down there, maybe visit, maybe not so much during the pandemic, but hopefully within the next year that things will open up where they can be have more social gatherings down in that area. So that's what Brandon was referring to, is that we would like to come in the spring when we do phase 5 and present a revision to our recreation to meet the demographics of the people that have bought in the community to date and that Ryan expects to have buy in the last 2 phases. And as a part of that, Brandon had suggested, Brandon had suggested that we identify that plan at this point and have something referenced in the developer's agreement and or the letter of credit that is posted to identify that there would be improvements to be installed during the phase 5, probably in conjunction. What we hope to do is do phase 5 this summer. We'll be finishing up phase 4. Ideally, if we get all the approvals, we would like to pave phase 4 in the spring when the paving operations open up, weather conditions permit. And if Ryan Homes sales continue the way they have in the South Strabane area and in the market in general, that they would be in need of the balance of the lots by the fall going into winter. So we'd certainly want to get that last phase paved during the summer or into the fall likely.
So what page do you want to show us for the topography for those trails and everything? What page is this presentation?
The methods on that presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Pat, for putting that up. Yeah, if you see the elevations when you go up, I don't know if any of you have driven into the neighborhood or been over in that area, but Morgan Drive has a significant rise from Country Club Road at the stream crossing and then up to the top of the hill. It's probably at 8-9% grade up the hill, and even more so in the natural topography because that grade starts out near the stream, whereas if you look over to the left of Morgan Drive, you'll see the stormwater pond that is located as a part of phase 4. And again, I apologize, I don't have, I'm not set up with the sharing, but what I'm seeing on the screen, sorry, yeah, maybe what Pat had just brought up there did show, as I said, significant topography where people, it would be on the southern boundary of the property. If you look at those topographic lines and the contours for the permanent diversion swale, for residents to go up through that area is severe topography. The 2-to-1 slope and the narrowness of that area, it would be more in line with again, if anyone has ever gone down to Ohiopyle, there's hiking trails that have significant topographic changes, and they just put hash markings on the trees and the rocks through that natural area. And younger people or young adults do use it, but we think that the area better suited to put all of the exercise and the recreation amenities, to put them in between Country Club Road. You'll see Country Club Road to the east, then the Bradford Run stream runs parallel to Country Club. And then on the western side of the stream, there's a large area that actually there's an old, maybe the point of reference would be there's an old sanitary sewer line that ran to the farmer's home. If you see that, there's a green marked area where we had to create a wetland, when we put the bridge in, the state required that you create wetlands that you're going to be damaging or destroying. So we're proposing, again, generally, and we'll bring this in with Greg Angelides, the developer, is still investigating type of materials and that they would use for, that still meet that expectation of those exercise stations, but they might be something that is more in line with the demographics of the people buying. And that in addition, we would do more sedate gathering area where there'd be, as I said, pavilions, some benches, some sitting areas, fire pits type of thing. So that's what Brandon was referring to. Is that what you were looking for, Brandon?
Yes, John, thank you.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions from the board? No. Right. Any questions from anybody on Zoom out there? Bill, Susan?
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. You could forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, with that being said, do I have a motion for consideration of preliminary final land development approval for the phase 2 plan development along Township Road and two? All right, I have a motion. Got a second on that motion? Second. Second by Mr. Gordon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Somebody falls asleep on hearing. Okay, the last item is again, this Township Code examining standards for drive-through facilities. And we will talk about that next week. I'm gonna actually look at my highway manual and get to blow the moths off of that and see what they have for these facilities. I don't know whether it's that up to date or not. We should discuss it. We've been asked by the supervisors to look into it, so we will look into it next month. Thank you, Brett. With that being said, the motion to end the planning meeting. Okay, motion, second by Gordy. The record shows 9:55, 9:50. Good night, all.
Good night. Good night.
Pat, thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Wait a minute, Brandon forgot something. We got another discussion.
6 o'clock tonight. Brandon upon